Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, it's good to see you. I was going to show you, but I think the rules don't allow me to show you just something because I just want to talk about basics, but hopefully we can sit down later and I can show you what I'm referring to. Want to talk about some of the basics. I live at the border, lived all my life there. Want to talk to you about river roads. I want to talk to you about Carrizo cane, technology that's needed, aerostats, and cameras that are not working, and some infrastructure. Basics that are needed for border security. My area, Laredo, it's the largest inland port, bigger than LA, bigger than any other place in the country. We get 18,000 trailers a day. We're about to expand from 8 lanes to 18, plus another bridge. We got 2 of them, 2 rail bridge. So trade is very important to us. But when we talk about illegal crossings, we've been the second lowest crossing in the country, and we still are out there. I think right now, latest numbers, 30 people, maybe 40 people a day coming through my area, which is almost nothing. So thank you for that. River roads, the river roads, and I wish I could show this just to show you, but the river roads go this way. Let's say the river's here. The river roads, the roads go this way. So Border Patrol can go here, but they can't go across. So what we're asking is for river roads to follow the river itself, and I think that would be a big investment, a good investment that we need. So one is the river roads. The other thing is the Carrizo cane. The Carrizo cane, I know you got some folks from people that are very familiar, but the Carrizo cane will grow almost the size of this. And it's not good for Border Patrol. I think Tony Gonzalez and folks that are from the border understand, we ought to get rid of that Carrizo cane on our river, but get the Mexicans to do that. I'll show you the maps, and I know you've been out there, but it shows you the Carrizo cane is on both sides. If we can clear that up, get the Mexicans to do that, that will be good for Border Patrol. So river roads, Carrizo cane, technology in my area, only 1/3 of the cameras are working. And if you ask some of the other Border Patrol, they're not working. Basically, they're using the RVS, which is an old model. They're trying to get the AST towers where more better to use or whatever technology. But this old technology is like going to a car and you fix it, and they keep coming. The same thing they're doing right now, they keep bringing folks that are coming in to fix it up. 1/3 of the cameras are working, 2/3 are not working. That's not right. Procurement process needs to be better so they can move faster to buy that technology. And finally, there are dead spots. Even now, with the modern technology, Border Patrol can be in certain areas and dangerous areas, and they don't have the technology and radio that's working. Aerostats, the military has a lot of them in surplus. The problem is in the past administrations, they've hired contractors that Homeland was paying too much money. So we need to look at those aerostats that are available from the military surplus itself. Border Patrol, I think right now we got 19,327. We funded 22,000, and we need to hire more. OFO, the men and women in blue, were at 26,334. We're still below the monitoring, so we need to hire those officers. So those are some of the things, and I know I gave you a whole bunch of things, but there's the basic things that are important to Border Patrol. Last point, as we try to hire new Border Patrol, I know the reconciliation has something that will affect them that has to do with Social Security supplement. I've talked to a lot of Border Patrol agents, and right now they're crunching the numbers. Do I retire at the age of 52 or do I 57? What's going to happen with that supplemental? So instead of focusing on the border, they're human beings and they're focusing on that. I know that's another committee, but those are the basics that I know I don't have enough time, but I would love to follow up with you and your folks on.
Absolutely. I will certainly do that, Congressman. And I want to thank you for talking about the technology needs and the investments that we need at the border in order for these agents to truly do their job and do it with excellence. I will tell you that recruitment at CBP is up over 50%. So as we've allowed them to go back and to do their jobs, We have had more and more interest in people, more applications coming in, and I think that's a fantastic trend, that as people talk about how discouraging it was over the last several years by them not having their hands tied, that now that they actually get to secure the border and work for the American people, that they're recruiting more and more help to be assisting along the way. Thank you.
you.
And we'll follow up on the rest of these conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Is
Chairman.
recognized for 5 minutes for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member. Thank you so much. And thank you, Administrative Director, being here with us. I appreciate the work that the men and women do for ICE. I've been working with them since I first got started here. In fact, I started off with one of your agents, Al Peña, who I think became Deputy Director of ICE some years ago. When we were in Laredo, we started the BEST program. That is the Border Enforcement Security Task Force. Since then, we put it into language. We've expanded it. I think you got over 70. And it goes after the cartels for drugs, trade, et cetera, et cetera. How's that coming along, the BEST programs?
Thank you, sir, for bringing it up, and I appreciate the work for former Deputy Director Peña. The BEST program is an excellent program. It does protect our homeland, specifically through the work of what Homeland Security Investigation does, not only for the criminal cartels, but illicit activity and long-term investigations on the border. Recently, the President signed the executive order with the establishment of the Homeland Security Task Force. I think the committee will be happy with the results of what these task forces will do. It'll bring to bear all the federal resources of Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security to focus on these transnational gangs, these ones that are bringing in fentanyl, these illicit drugs that are coming into our communities. Not only that, but they'll focus on these transnational cartel organizations, along with foreign terrorist organizations that do threaten our border, not only the southern border, but the northern border, as well as our maritime interdiction, which has increased greatly. Just last night, Homeland Security Investigations had their first indictment for support of terrorism material in San Diego, which is one of the actions that you'll see coming out of the Homeland Security Task Forces.
Good. Well, I appreciate the good work that the program does. Are we still at about 1.3 million final deportation orders? I know your work is very hard, and I remember Director Morgan many years ago. It's some people want you to do more, some people think you're doing too much, so trying to find that balance is always difficult. But where are we on the 1.3 million final deportation orders? And I don't know if that's still the correct number.
Yes, sir. It's approximately 1.1 million final deportation officers. We're actively still prioritizing those and attempting to affect those removals. As the President said under Secretary Noem, we did prioritize, and we still are prioritizing the worst of the worst. However, during our investigations and when we are out in the communities, should we encounter someone that has a final order, it has been lawfully ordered removed or deported from the United States, ICE is going to uphold their sworn duty and take that individual into custody and effect that removal order. But to your question, sir, ICE is actively working on those final orders at this time.
Good. Yeah, and I understand what happens if you run into somebody. You can't just close your eyes. But as long as you focus on criminals and final deportation orders, national security threats, that would be good. Let me go back to, it's actually Section 527, very familiar, because myself and some other folks, we added that language. In fact, we added language on oversight of the detention, because ICE doesn't really have detention, so you have to go to the private sector to do that. But we put specific language, one where a member of Congress does not, it says specifically, doesn't have to give notice. Staff might have to give notice, but members can go in and act accordingly, number one. And then on the oversight, health, food, whatever needs to be provided to the folks that are being detained. We have very specific language to make sure that those private contractors are following that, and you all are following that oversight that Congress has set up.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are. And that's one of the things that I am proud of is ICE does have some of the highest detention standards. But unfortunately, that does hinder a lot of local partners partnering with us, because due to the high standards that ICE has, it's cost prohibitive for a local law enforcement agency, state, or a sheriff's department to actually enter into ICE because they would not be able to afford.
Okay. And just finally, years ago, we started the border coordinating processors for Border Patrol because we wanted Border Patrol to be out in the fields and not changing diapers, making sandwiches for migrants. Very important, but not for the agents. We want more support staff for y'all, so make sure you keep asking for the support staff so you can have the agents doing their work instead of sitting down behind a task. It worked very well for Border Patrol. We did a lot of things for Border Patrol, border processing, support staff, mental health support staff, because everybody goes through that situation. So just make sure you ask the committee for that support.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chairman and Ranking, thank you. We got to go same place, talk to Coast Guard. But just first of all, Admiral and Mr. Secretary Admiral, and I think a fellow Texan also, General, thank you for the service that you provided. A couple of things. One, the military does bring some skills and assets that the Department of Homeland doesn't do. So like if you can follow up on that and what y'all bring to it. It's not only the southern border, but of course we got the coast, as you know. Number one. Number two, you know, the law already calls for operational and regulatory efficiency reviews. The law already calls for contracting and procurement standards. The law already calls for quarterly performance updates. The law already requires development and submissions of updated performance measures. I like to just focus on the contracting and procurement standard, as it's been brought up by both the chairman and the ranking member, is why can we not do things on budget and on time? I mean, if the Chinese can do it, the Japanese can do it, and other folks can do it, you know, we always come up, well, we got workforce development, all that, but why can, you know, there's already penalties there for monetary penalties, suspension of work, and other things under the law. You know, we keep coming up with excuses, but you got other countries that keep doing this. On budget and on time are the two factors. Finally, the last thing, and you can follow up on this later on, in my San Antonio area, as you know, there's been different suspension of contracts. There is one in particular that had to do with some data, a data contract that deals with service members' records, data for promotion boards, and other thing. And again, this contract was, you know, we think it was necessary and it was performing, but then you all cut it. I don't want you to take up the time now, but have somebody follow up on that. But I like to go and, you know, if you can mention a little bit on border security, what you bring in that Homeland doesn't have, but more importantly, on budget and on time, and why other countries can do it and we can't.
Why don't we start with the border piece, and then we can go to another question. So from the Navy's perspective, 30 intelligence specialists on the border helping with the southern border, 58 P-8 sorties for intelligence and surveillance, and now 3 ships. And Minneapolis St. Paul is a littoral combat ship, as well as 2 destroyers, and they relieved 2 destroyers. So the presence for counter drug flow, counter immigration, there's a maritime component of that the Navy is performing and has performed for a long time. The first time I got underway on a ship in 1987, we had a law enforcement detachment, and that's something the Coast Guard and the Navy are really good at doing together to extend the reach of the Coast Guard.
Sir, in terms of the Marines, our 1st Combat Engineer Battalion, based out of Camp Pendleton, California, is operating on the southern border. They're doing engineer tasks. They're constructing concertina wire. They're building obstacles. They're doing what they do, so they're continuing to get the training that they would normally get at Camp Pendleton. They're just getting it on the southern border. But that's our contribution, is our 1st Combat Engineer Battalion.
Just real quick, just on the border as well. I mean, I think the Navy, since its inception, has been a homeland defense organization. They work with the Coast Guard. They do ballistic missile defense, and keeping sea lanes and trade lanes open has been part of their job since inception. So I think it's a very important aspect to what they do. In terms of on time, on budget, I think it's a number of different things. One, as I mentioned in my opening statement, the industrial base has been hollowed out. We have lost a lot of manufacturing and our ability to manufacture. We've had prior conflicts where we've spent a lot of money, and the bills for our deferred infrastructure spend, whether that's piers, docks, is now coming due. And it's been going on for a while. And so these are not new problems. I mean, I look back at testimony 20 years, I keep hearing the same things. I'm trying to figure out why it hasn't been fixed, to be perfectly honest. But I will tell you, I think it's a combination of bureaucracy. So just to give you an example, in the Navy, in acquisitions alone, we have 56,000 people in our acquisitions department. Now, we did last year 217,000 contracts. That's 34 contracts per person. That's 2 contracts a month. Something's off. I keep trying to understand what are all these people doing. And these are complicated contracts, but I'll also be honest, when I look at our contracting, it's poor. We don't control our IP. We can't repair stuff. We don't have very good penalties built in for lack of performance. These are all things we are going to really try to change. And I kind of called it in my confirmation hearing, shared risk. I think it's great for the private sector to make money, and they should. But they should be paid according to the risk that they take. And that is not going on right now. And we need to fix that. So it is not an easy solution, but it has our focus, and we are going to get it fixed. It will take time. We will be very transparent with all of you and walk you through and tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and try to get it sorted.
Thank you. By that detail, and ranking member, thank you so much. I was texting Rodney Scott. He told me to be kind, so for the record, I will be very kind, Commissioner Flores. Couple of things. First of all, thank your men and women, blue, green, tan, air marine, and all the folks that work for y'all. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have my questions are gonna be very specified to Laredo, if you don't mind this time. Number one, we have the largest checkpoint that needs to be upgraded. I think we already added $15 million. They're working on the design, but I like to make sure that y'all keep that on budget and on time, and that's one thing we need to work on. Everything else that y'all work on budget and on time, and hopefully we can follow the law on that aspect. And I'm worried about that checkpoint because it would be the 4th largest port of entry if it would be a port of entry, that checkpoint. And it's not only that checkpoint, but we got another one in Freer that's been on holding for a while, and we need that one too. And then I think Congressman Gonzalez has another one in Eagle Pass, I believe, also. So if we're going to add money, if y'all going to be adding money on reconciliation, just look at the basics. Needs for our men and women down there, and I'll talk about those checkpoints. The other thing is the efficiencies. I know we just established a CT-PAC in Laredo, an office there. The more of those trucking lines we can get in, the better it is, because as you know, most of the drugs come in through ports of entry, not in between ports. According to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, 86% of the people that are caught at checkpoints and ports of entry are U.S. citizens, not illegal. They're U.S. citizens or residents, so we got to make sure we get your technology working. So we got to get that non-intrusive technology working, and I know sometimes the footprint is not there for some of the older bridges. But there are some new expansions coming in. The World Trade Bridge in Laredo, which is the largest port in the whole country, bigger than LA, and et cetera, et cetera. We only have 8 lanes, but we got the presidential permit where we go from 8 to 18 lanes. So from 18,000 trailers a day, you can imagine what's going to happen. That gives a lot of opportunities for the bad guys to use those trailers. We have the 3rd largest crossing, the Columbia Bridge, which we're waiting for a presidential permit. It's the second largest in Texas. So Laredo has basically number one and number three in the whole southern border. So I'm very interested in the men and women in blue and the technology that y'all are looking at. And finally, the last thing I want to make a comment, and you can respond, is the cameras. As you know, FAA, somebody came up with a bright idea to put it all together, and the FAA was handling the maintenance. It's like asking Border Patrol to go on air traffics, and I think hopefully that was changed now. But in my area, 1/3 of the cameras are working. 2/3 are not working unless if those numbers have changed. But to say 1/3 of the cameras are not working, I know we're waiting for upgrades, that's not good for border security. Last point has to do with contracting. You mentioned that, you know, the tents, and those tents, I know some were coming from Rome, New York, and other places. But a lot of it, when the numbers went down, I don't know what the right term is, y'all had this warm status. Y'all should have gotten rid of that, because we're paying millions and millions and millions of taxpayers' dollars. And y'all just got to do a better job at contracting and getting a better deal. And then just letting those, whatever it is, warm status going in to that. And talking about warm, let me go to warm. Farm, there's a big detention center in Laredo, $280 million. I call it a woke type of project where for the sewage, y'all want to use warm. Apparently, y'all use it in California. That's fine in California, but the city of Laredo is willing to put sewage lines and work with you. This, I'll call it a woke project. I mean, just that warm thing. The rest is good. The detention center is good, but I would like to have a follow-up on all that.
Sure.
And I know we don't have enough time, but be happy to sit down with you. And for the record, tell Mr. Scott that I was very kind to you. He was very kind.
Congressman, thank you for the question. We'll definitely get back to you. We recognize all those projects. They are on our priority, and obviously as we get through ability to fund many of that, and some have already funded in regards to the Laredo checkpoint. So we're on track with that going forward.
And the detention center, what about that warm?
So the warm status that we put them in is because of the unpredictability that we had during the surges that we were seeing from illegal crossing. So we wanted to make sure that we were not going to be out of capacity, since with the new administration and the numbers that we saw consistently being down, we went through the process as soon as we could in order to scale down. And every one of those soft-sided facilities we no longer operate in.
Yeah. Well, this is a heart facility. They closed the tents, and we're talking about heart facility. You're a congressional affairs person, is very familiar with that. I don't have a problem. I support that detention center. I just have a problem with the warm farm when the city's willing to connect sewage lines to y'all. But anyway, thank you so much, and I appreciate your service and your men and women that work for y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. The chair now recognizes the vice chair of the subcommittee, the gentleman from Arizona, home of the 5 Cs, copper, cattle, cotton, citrus, and climate. Mr. Siscomani, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank all of y'all for your service and the men and women that work along yourselves. 2 questions. One has to do with the role that you play at the border. I represent border areas, live there at the border. And then the other one has to do with the impact of the Army Transformational Initiative on the National Guard. I'll talk about the border. The National Guard has provided border security for many years, again, working with the Department of Homeland in a host of different missions. They've done that both in a federal and a state status, performing a number of duties that include detection, monitoring, logistics, and transportation, enhancing the work that CBP or Border Patrol does down there. And that is to impede the denial or deny the illegal crossings, situational awareness, and we certainly want to thank you. Now that the numbers have gone down, Border Patrol has pretty much, it's not the way they were strained. So I would ask you to, continue doing the work you're doing there, but to look at some of the basic work. For example, let's assume this is the Rio Grande. Right now, the roads of Border Patrol come in this way. They need more river roads so they can patrol the river, is one thing I would ask you to consider, number one. Number two, there is, unless if you're from the border, you're not familiar with the invasive carrizo cane that just grows very high on both sides of the border. But one of the things that we could do is to get rid of that carrizo cane, and we've added monies to get rid of that carrizo so Border Patrol can have a clear side of view. So since the numbers have gone down, I would ask you, besides the work you're doing, is talk to Border Patrol and talk to them about river roads and the eradication of carrizo cane. And I think that would be extremely helpful. Besides, keeping in mind that 1/3 of the cameras for Border Patrol are working, 2/3 of the cameras are not working. Think about that. 2/3 of the cameras are not working for Border Patrol. So those are some things that I think living on the border, I think will be very useful. And then the second question, General, I'd like to have a better understanding of the impact of the Army Transformational Initiative on the National Guard. As you know, the Army National Guard has 4 Apache battalions, including the 1st Attack Recon Battalion, 149 Aviation in the state of Texas. So there's more of us, a few of us from Texas, which currently is flying the D model Apaches that I understand are supposed to be divested. So what is the Army's plan for the Guard to ensure that we have a full fleet of current Apache helicopters, and what's the plan to sustain and upgrade the fleet? So those are my 2 questions.
Congressman, thank you for the questions. As we work super close with Secretary Driscoll and General George on the Army side with Army Transformation Initiative, the Army National Guard is very synced in. And obviously, National Guard's 325,000, really 328,000 strong. And so as we look at going into the future, keeping that transformation and very synced with the Army is important. And that's been synced across the board. As we look at Army aviation, I see that continuing to go in a very good direction from the Apaches. As we look at the Echo models, we've transformed 2 of the 4. A 3rd is in transformation right now, and then Texas will transform in the future to Echo models. And I see a strong future for the National Guard as we go through this transformation with the Army. Congressman, on the border, General Gio has that as the combatant commander. General Gio and I know each other well, and we work very closely. 1,500 of our guardsmen are in Title 10 that fall underneath him. So we will certainly pass these comments forward on to General Gio. And also I work with General Salzer, who's the Adjutant General for the state of Texas, and where we have about 4,400 guardsmen supporting Operation Lone Star in the state of Texas. And so I've been down to the border twice to see our troops down there and how they're getting after the mission to seal the border.
Yeah, and when the numbers were high coming in from the border, Border Patrol needed help in logistics, transportation, and all that. The numbers have gone down tremendously. In fact, in the Laredo sector, a day we get maybe 30, maybe 40 individuals. And so across the board, the numbers are gone. So the logistics, the intelligence, and all that is very important. But I would ask you, again, everybody looks at the shiny objects. It's the basic things that should be done at the border that will have long-term effects. The river roads, imagine the river right here. The roads run this way, not this way. And the carrizo cane, they grow almost as high as this, ceiling. And again, they're on both sides. I'm just talking about the U.S. side. Just clearing that up will provide a better view from cameras, eyesight, horse patrols by Border Patrol. So I would just ask all of y'all, whoever's involved in this, just to pass that on. And I've talked to the General on this, but I think it's important that we keep the basics in mind. With that, I want to thank all of y'all for the work that y'all do and thank the men and women that serve with y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, and all 3 of you all, welcome and thank you for your service. I represent an area from San Antonio all the way to Laredo, the border. In San Antonio, we got Joint Base San Antonio, the largest joint base in the Department of Defense that contributes over $151 billion to the Texas economy. We support 266 mission partners. San Antonio also has the second largest cyber footprint in the nation, hosting the 16th Air Force cyber. And then, of course, the military facilities that are the best in the country also. Along with that, going down to Laredo, the largest port in the country, 9th largest in the world after 8 Chinese ports. Number 9 in the world is Laredo. And my question, Mr. Secretary, has to do with one of your plans, and ask you to, welcome you to San Antonio, let the San Antonio folks come in. It has to do with Army, U.S. Army North and U.S. Army South. I'm not going to go with their missions, a critical mission. But what concerns us in San Antonio, both the Democrats and Republican members of Congress and senators, we're concerned that, in setting up a Western Hemisphere command, which I think it's a good idea, that you move it away from a place like San Antonio, where, we have the infrastructure, the personnel, the community partnerships to work with you on this. And I say this because I think your testimony has about 11,900 troops that are down there working with the Homeland, which I support. And keeping in mind what's happening with the cartels in Mexico and other places, I would ask you to, when you look at this Western Hemisphere Command, that you don't move it 1,500 miles away from the border, especially in a place like San Antonio. I think we got a few Texans here that can talk about the rest of the state of Texas, and some wannabe Texans also that can talk about what the facilities we have. But I would ask you to, as you consider this, to keep the command, Western Hemisphere Command in San Antonio.
Well, sir, count me amongst some of the wannabe Texans. Tennessee's close enough.
Hey, we got no state income tax. Keep that.
It's true. I appreciate that concern. It is something that has come up multiple times in conversations with Secretary Driscoll and General George in reviewing their Army modernization plan and consolidation, with the recognition that some of those changes, when we go through a posture review and as we're looking at commands, are going to include some tough choices. Some of that includes ranks and positioning, but you still are going to have, at some level, a south and north bifurcation. The question is where that is headquartered, and we are in an ongoing review on that, of exactly where that will shake out. But I would encourage continue deliberation with Secretary Driscoll. They have been thoughtful about it and will continue to be.
And I understand that there's decisions that have to be made, efficiencies and all that, but just ask you, as you look at that, if we're doing so much investment on the border, and we already got the infrastructure down there in San Antonio and all the support from the other military bases across the state of Texas and the partnership, I would ask you and the Secretary to please, before you make a decision, go drink the water, go, feel what we have in San Antonio and the surrounding areas in Texas, to consider that instead of just making a decision by the paper on that. And certainly ask you to consider also the second largest footprint that we have at cyber there in San Antonio, and working with the top cyber university, UTSA there. And of course, the military facilities that we have, which are in the best, and certainly during the Afghanistan and Iraq war, that area was looked. So I just ask that before any decisions were made, consider making a trip to San Antonio and have your folks understand. And I know some of y'all have been in Texas before, and would ask you to look at that. So with that, Mr. Secretary, and all of y'all, thank you for your service.
Well, noted, sir, and thank you for your contributions to securing the border, which has been a huge priority for President Trump. We're going to get 100% operational control, and it's because of support and folks like you. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chairman Womack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And